Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to another episode of Geeks Watch. Um, I meant to do a review of Invincible back when it first came out and I first watched it, but I guess I never got around to it. So we're doing it now. Since season 2 has started, this is probably gonna wind up being review 1.5. So Invincible is based on the comic book Invincible. The main character is Mark Grayson. He is the teenage son of Nolan Grayson, the world's greatest superhero. He is a Superman analog. He is an alien. He is super strong. He can fly. He's practically indestructible. He is the most powerful superhero on the planet. But unlike the Superman we're used to, his planet wasn't destroyed. He comes from the planet Viltrum. He tells his son that the Viltrumites send their people out to other planets as like an ambassador to try and help out, and make other planets better. And he is, for the last 20 years or so, been the world's greatest superhero, saving lives and yada, yada, yada. But things may not be quite as what they seem. In the first episode of the series, at the very end of the episode, there is a brutal fight where he basically slaughters that world's version of the Justice League. So that's a bit spoilery, but it is the first episode of the show. They changed that in the comic books. That doesn't happen for several months. In the books it plays on for a while, but in the TV show they've switched things around a bit, which I kind of liked. Normally I'm a stickler for details, but I wasn't as huge a fan of the Invincible comic books that it's going to bother me that they have changed things up. So don't care in this instance. But then the rest of season 1 is them trying to figure out what happened to the Guardians of the Globe, trying to figure out who killed them. And in the process, Nolan Grayson, who goes by the name of Omni-Man, was severely beaten. He had to fight all of them at the same time. None of them were as strong as he is, but they were strong enough to cause him some serious damage. He was basically hospitalized and took a while to recover. So there's all this, he's hiding that he killed them all. People are trying to figure out what went on, and they eventually do realize that he killed them, and they don't know why. And they can't do anything to stop him from doing it again. Nothing they do does more than give him a bloody nose when they finally do start to try and hold him back. And he goes on some small rampages. It turns out that the Viltrumites don't send people out as ambassadors to help other planets. They send them out to conquer. Their goal is to live there unobtrusively for a while until they figure things out well enough to take control of the planet and enslave the population. And his son Mark does not agree with this. They get into a fight, which is brutally devastating to watch. It's also kind of fun. I mean, it's fun to watch in a way, but it's also fun to watch the way that you're looking at a train wreck. You're watching Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, just beat the hell out of his own son without a single concern for whatever collateral damage that might cause. If he throws Mark through an office building and there are people inside who are pulverized, because Mark's not as strong as his father. He's still young. He hasn't come into his full power yet. He can't hold a candle to his father. So, whatever his father wants to do, he does. And it is brutal. And it was one hell of a climax for the season. At the end of the season, one of the last things that happens is Mark is laying on the side of a mountain, beaten to a pulp, bloody. His own father's sons are covered in the blood of his son. And he just says, why do you care? In 500 years, Viltrumites live for thousands of years. In 500 years, all these people will be dead. Why do you care what happens? And in a broken, choking voice, he says, I would have still had you, Dad. At that point, Omni-Man just flies away in a rage and disappears into the sky. And he basically, flew away from Earth. And no one else knows what happened to him. Season 2 starts off dealing with the trauma of that. Mark has recovered. Mark's mother, Nolan's wife, realizes that her husband didn't think of her as anything more than a pet. Didn't really love her. She was just, there to entertain him while he was doing his mission. They both are trying to deal with the trauma. Mark's does okay off and on. He still has his girlfriend, Amber. He goes off to college. He and Amber continue their relationship. You see some stuff from aliens in outer space who are worried about the Viltrumites. But there's only 4 episodes. So Mark going to college, his mother trying to deal with the trauma of her husband's betrayal and the fact that he murdered some of his best friends. Mark needing to be stronger, trying to do as much as he can to help people, to make up for what his father did. Some of the other superheroes and stuff. We also get to see a new character, a character who can hop into other dimensions and see alternate realities. And we see an alternate reality where Mark did not fight his father. He joined him, and they conquered the Earth. And this guy who can dimension hop is basically recruiting other versions of himself from other universes to try and blend their intelligences together to try and make a better world for all of them. And of course, that experiment goes horribly wrong and backfires, probably because of Mark's interference. Although he was trying to help, not realizing what was going wrong. There is an alien who has come to Earth to visit Mark, to tell him about the Viltrumites and stuff, and that there's this coalition of planets that are trying to resist them. His name is Alan the Alien. So there's an episode with him in it. He is beaten very badly by some Viltrumites. There is the head of the council, the Most Wise, I can't remember his name now, but Most Wise, whatever it is. But he's voiced by the same guy that voices Ultimate Prime. When I recognize his voice, it's like, holy shit, that's Ultimate Prime. That made me giggle. We do find out what happened to Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson, because he tricks Mark to coming to the new planet he's living on to find out that he has a new alien wife and a new alien half-brother. Well, Nolan Grayson has a new alien wife, and Mark has a new alien half-brother. These aliens have very short lives, so his half-brother is already a toddler because they live accelerated lives, a little purple baby brother. And the Viltrumites show up and beat the crap out of both of them. They take Nolan away to be executed for treason. They tell Mark to go back and finish conquering Earth for his father. And if they don't, they're going to check up on him. And if he's not doing a good job, they will take further measures. And they'll take measures into their own hands. And that's where we left off of season 2. We did get a bonus episode. Adam Eve is a secondary character, a female superhero who can rearrange molecules to make them into something else. She can create little energy shields, and she can turn anything into anything else. She can turn, a cheese sandwich into a hamburger. She can turn a light bulb into a beer. She can literally make anything into anything else. If she can imagine it, she can change it and make it. She's only limited by her imagination and her intelligence. So this bonus episode was her complete backstory, her birth, her childhood, her teenage years, basically everything that happened up to before she became a superhero in the Invincible storyline. And I think that bonus episode was the best thing they've written, one of the best things they've written. The animation was better than regular too. I really enjoyed the series. Obviously, I'm on season 2, and I've rambled on in my own way for almost 10 minutes now. I really do enjoy the story. At this stage, we've gotten The Boys, we've gotten Brightburn. You know, it's another evil Superman trope, but it's not quite, because Omni-Man isn't quite as brutal as Homelander. He can be, but as a general rule, he's not. So it is different in that regard. It's not The Boys, even though there are a few similarities. Um, Not quite. I mean, the boys are all genetically engineered superheroes. Invincible is just an alternate version of Superman and the Justice League, which I guess the boys is too. But it's a bit more of a true homage, I guess. Although he does kill them all in the first episode. Who knows? I think it's a bit more true to form, because at this point, Omni-Man's the only one who's bad. He's the only bad superhero. And he's not quite as bad as everyone else. He's not, I mean, there are some Viltrumites who are monsters, but Nolan's not quite that evil, even though he can be, and he does some brutal things. He seems to have developed a bit of a conscience in his time living on Earth. Not much of one, but he does have one. Um, it is, for me, an interesting take. There are some points of realism in the writing, um, in that superheroes aren't quite left to their own devices. There's government agencies that kind of promote them to try and keep them under control. So and they don't trust them. They don't trust their own superheroes. So there's always the backup contingency plans they try and keep in place if and when a superhero goes rogue. There's some very, very gray areas in morality, which it's not starkly black and white. It's not quite as vicious and heartless as The Boys is, but there's still some good gray areas in the writing, and I do enjoy that. However, there are a few episodes that I thought dragged. The dating stuff between Mark and Amber doesn't interest me at all, and that might be because I'm getting old and teenage romance bores me now. It didn't bother me quite so much when I was a teenager myself, but I've gotten to the point where, you know, just skip the teenage romance, please. I don't care anymore. I actually did fast forward through some of that stuff. I am going to be critical of the animation again. It is choppy, and it is kind of flat. It's not always that bad. There are some well-animated sequences, but you get some scenes that are just like a flat comic book panel. You've got, Omni-Man flying sideways, just flat, perfectly sideways, no depth, just flat, and I realize not every shot has to be dynamic, and animating is hard. But I had a conversation with my son-in-law about this kind of stuff. And because he hasn't watched Invincible, but he has watched some other animated stuff that's done the same style. But the show on Amazon, it looks like a cheap Saturday morning cartoon, and sometimes, not all the time. Like I said, there's some really well animated sequences, but some of it is also still just not good. It's very choppy. And the comparison that I've made is that, I grew up watching Chuck Jones, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny. Chuck Jones is responsible for some of, the Kill the Rabbit, What's Opera Doc, that stuff. And he used the same frame rate, same 12, animation like this is 12 frames a second, because animating is hard and it takes time. And Chuck Jones did less choppy animation 60 years ago or more without computer help, all with hand-drawn animation. He didn't have the option of, oh, I made a mistake in this frame. I can just erase it with Photoshop or whatever they're using for animating tools. I know not Photoshop, but whatever animating tools they're using, if they screw up a line, they can just bend it, twist it, shape it. Animating now is way easier than it was 60 years ago when I was a kid watching this stuff. And Bugs Bunny, Chuck Jones was a master of his craft. Not everything that came out 60 years ago was great. but I'm spoiled by Chuck Jones Looney Tunes, and I pretty much hold everyone up to him to see how good they are. You know, I can be forgiving depending on the style and what's being done. You know, I've watched some stuff that is a bit choppy, but it doesn't need, you know, but it's the style, and it's more caricatures. Because this is real people, real people, the choppiness is more noticeable to me. So I'm a bit more critical of it. But aside from those two things, you know, that a few of the episodes dragged, the teenage romance bores me, you know, bores me, and the animation is a bit choppy. Aside from those things, it's really well done. Um, you know, because I do have some criticisms, and I'm not going to give it flying colors, but it's got more heart than something like The Boys does. The Boys is just so dark and cynical. You can't get behind any. None of the characters are good. um, but in Invincible, the characters aren't all great, but they're not. There's some moral grayness there, but they're not, you know, so cynical and dark that you just can't root for it. You can't root for them. So anyway, I did really like this, and I would certainly recommend watching it if you like animation and like the superhero genre. It was a lot of fun to watch. I'm eagerly going to await the second half of season 2. And this was a weird review for me, giving away so many spoilers, and one in the fact that I did a season and a half instead of one season at a time. But there we are. So take what you will. I'm going to give it like a solid A since I'm grading it. Oh, my school teacher? No. But I'm giving it an A anyway. Not any higher because, like I said, of some of the small issues that I have. But they were fairly small. I keep watching, you know, and I'll watch the rest of the season. Now I got to find something else to watch. No, I do have something else to watch. And I had to hurry up and finish season 2 so I can watch something else. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's a solid A. Take it for what it's will. As always, thanks for watching. As always, if you like this crap, it's crap. And until next time, good hunting.